Welcome to Dice Tower Live.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to the best game artwork of 2018, part of our series of live top 10 lists, now back in 1080p. Thanks to Derek pointing out a trigger I needed to put, which is why our stuff on Monday, Christmas Eve, was not so hot. But hey, we are back and we're talking about best artworking games. Now, a couple things here. This list, I do my best when I make these lists to take my personal opinion of the game out of it, because good artwork is good artwork. But at the same time, artwork is extremely subjective. Like, my number one is probably not most people's number one, I would guess. And, you know, I might not put one on the list, and people will go, why wasn't that on the list? That's the best artwork. Artwork is just crazily different for everybody. You know, some people might think a certain piece of art is great. I've been to many modern art museums, and I have no idea why people like any of the art there. But I mean, and there's other museums I've been to, and I have liked the art. So it is what it is. So if you have any questions on why a specific game doesn't show up on the list, go ahead and ask those at the end. I'll try to cover any of those. And let's get started. So, top 10 best game artwork of 2018. Number 10 is a game that somehow was left out of my top 100 games list. It would actually have been in the top 50 probably, because I like this game a lot, but somehow it missed everything. But I also really like the artwork for this game, and that game is Monster Lands. Now, Monster Lands, I like the cover straight up there. Like, look at that monster. It's like, and you got to kill him. All right, but throughout the game, there's all kinds of artwork. Now, this kind of art we see in a lot of different games, but I like the monster art. I like the land art. I like the weapon art. I like the hero art. I think I got some heroes here. Yeah. So we have these different heroes and different people that you can be. And I just like it. It has a very stylized look to it, very cartoony. You know, you're going out and slaying these fantasy creatures and things like that. And yeah, so it's really cool art. My number 10, Monster Lands. And yes, this was a Christmas present for my daughter, Melody. All right, number 9. Number 9 was also on my top 10 components list. In fact, it was number 1 on that list. Really like the artwork stylings of this game. Look forward to seeing more games from the same company. And that's Who Goes There. So Who Goes There? First of all, great cover. The artwork here, which if you don't know what this game is about, it's based on the short story that the movie The Thing came from, a short story called Who Goes There. And so this is based on that. But it has like a very cartoony style without being silly. Okay, so they cartoonize the different characters as Dr. Copper, and it's cool, it's clean, it looks neat, and at the same time isn't like a ha-ha-ha cartoon, because you are talking about people who are not sure if the other one is, infected by some alien symbiote or not. I don't know, I just really like this artwork. This artist, I'd love to see more of the work in games, but the same company, I have seen some of their games that are coming out in 2019 and such, and the artwork there is just as good. So that's my number 9, Who Goes There. Number 8 is a what is termed as a bag building game, where you pull tiles from a bag. This game drew me in because of the artwork at first. The cover itself looks really cool, and that is Groves. So I think Groves, that's just a pretty cover, right? That's just a pretty looking game, and it shows the different seasons, the different groves, and each of you has your own trees in this game. So these are actual player boards. They're fantastic. I mean, from winter to spring to summer to fall, you each have your own player board. They look really pretty. I would love to get a print of these 4 trees and put on my wall. That's how much I like this stuff. So that is Groves. Here's the different fairies that are in the game too. And I like fairy artwork and all. And the fairy artwork was fine. But what really attracted me to this game was, well, the trees themselves and just how pretty that was. So my number 8, Groves. You'll notice that there's different styles. Number 7 is a different style than the ones that we've seen so far. More of cartoony, and again, another fantasy. Maybe I'm kind of attracted to fantasy style artwork, I guess, as a whole. But number 7 is Legendary Creatures. Now, I think that Eduardo and First Pencil Games has a really good eye for art. And I think what attracts me to Legendary Creatures is how different this art looks in other games. It almost looks like fantasy art you would find in a well-done children's book. Now, the game itself is not a children's game. Legendary Creatures is a full-fledged, small deck builder style game. But the artwork in it, as you look at the different monsters that you have, the Cyclops, the Unicorn, the Jabberwock, and they all have different things. But each of these creatures, well, we've seen these creatures in other fantasy games, but they kind of have their own stylization in this game. And let's see, and then here's like just, why is that? What? Not a Minotaur. Not a Cyclops. Centaur. Thank you. I don't know why. But again, First Pencil Games has kind of a very distinct look to their games. I always think their games look really fantastic. And yes, so my number 7 is Legendary Creatures. Someone asked if expansions are on this list. No, I just looked at first-time games. Number 6 is a game that actually came out with the second season of it came out like today or a few weeks ago. Anyway, and this is Dice Throne. So Dice Throne attracts me for a couple reasons. When you look at the cover, you look at all those characters look awesome. Fantasy artwork, really well done artwork, huge fan of the artwork. But when you take a closer look at the characters themselves, they do a really good job at making them realistic. A lot of times when I see fantasy artwork, especially with female fantasy artwork, you could take the heads off of the different characters and switch them, and they would be the exact same. And that's always boggled my mind. I was just playing a superhero video game, and I was thinking, I could take the heads off these different characters, and they all look the same. But here they don't. They have a very distinct look to each of the characters, and a very diverse look. And a really cool look, and not afraid to use colors. And this is Season 1. Season 2 also looks really cool. So Dice Throne is a lot of fun, and how pretty it looks. So that's my number 6. Number 5 is a reprint, and it is a good family style game, but I love the artwork to this really silly, just silly I guess is the word, this really silly themed game, and that's Dinosaur Tea Party. Now, Dinosaur Tea Party shows dinosaurs dressed to the nines, drinking tea and eating crumpets. Sure. And this is kind of funny because it's not the only tea party. I think there was a dragon's tea party game that came out this year too. But Dinosaur Tea Party, I really like the art in this game. Really well done. The art is the main focus of this game. You see all these different dinosaurs. Each of these dinosaurs is a big giant card that shows a very different looking dinosaur. I mean, this T-Rex drinking tea is just absolutely ridiculous. And at the same time, he isn't ridiculous. He knows he's not ridiculous. And don't you insult him while he's drinking tea. I kind of like that mix of the things here. Really cool. Here's just a close-up look at the artwork. And the dinosaurs are not like stabbing each other. There's no violence here. They're just going to a tea party. And that makes for some nice art. So my number 5, Dinosaur Tea Party. Number 4 is a game that when it came, I was excited because of the theme and because of the art. And many people said I should have put it on my best components list, and that is Cerebria. So Cerebria, the Inside World, or kind of like Inside Out, the board game to some degree, where you are playing as these different emotions, although here, can you tell which of these are the bad emotions, which ones are the good emotions? It's kind of hard to tell, but I think you can guess. They did a really good job here. They have these emotions of joy and greed and, I don't know, all kinds of different emotions. And each one has its own distinct look to it, which I think is fun. So here we got empathy, and look how nice and friendly, and then malice. That guy, if you give him a hug, you will be stabbed to death. All right? And I like that. It's neat, the whole game, but it's not just the characters themselves. If you look at the background, na 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 na. And then in background here, we got the Hall of the Troll Mountain playing. So it's really cool. And while this game wasn't a huge win for me game-wise, there is definitely no faulting for me on how it looks. Here's comfort and satisfaction. Can't get him. But I like the way this looks, the board, everything together, some fantastic art. And so that is Cerebria. What number are we on? Number 3 is a game I just played for the first time this past month, and I was attracted to this one because of the art here, and that is The Boldest. Now, The Boldest is another game from Sophie Wagner, who does some fantastic stuff, and this game has this really cool, punky, steampunk, like futuristic theme, but also like I don't actually know the whole theming of the game. In fact, the gaming almost feels like they took the game and based it on the artwork. But in this game, you are going out and trying to fight these machines that have been built by humans, but they're like running around the forest now causing problems. But you just have this, it's almost Oliver Twisty in the future types things. I don't know, do I got any pictures of this one? Yeah, this is like an example of this artist's work. Go to the next slide here. And here's some of the pictures in the game. And I just like how they look. They almost look like they're the borrowers. But I think they're full-size humans. But they have this borrowers look like where they're just grabbing anything they can get their hands on. And it gives the game its own cool flavor and its own cool vibe. It's just a really neat look at this game. And it's also a pretty fun game. I'll be doing a review of it in a couple weeks. So that is The Boldest. Number 2. This one is a game that has stunning artwork. The company that puts their games together, they mostly make small card games, but their games always look fantastic. That's Jelly Bean Games, and the game is Lady or Tiger. No, sorry, The Lady and the Tiger. But the story is The Lady or the Tiger? I'm not sure. Either way, I still say the answer is The Lady. But look at that. Nice dichotomy there between a lady in a red dress and that tiger. It's very Disney-esque, this artwork. Just fantastic. So flip over. Here's some more of the card artworks. And these cards are big, giant tarot cards. They just look great. Like each of these cards could be something you could put up on your wall. I mean, do you want the fierce tiger or the beautiful lady? Do I have another picture here? And yeah, here's just a picture of lots of the different cards. And they're really neat. Each lady looks very different again. Each of the tigers looks different, which is pretty impressive. And yet the whole thing is tied together through some brilliant red and blue and even black and white coloring in it. I'm just very impressed with the whole production of The Lady and the Tiger. But the artwork is what, seals it for me. So my number 2, Lady and the Tiger. Number 1. This is fantastic artwork. And this game... Again, this was another game that it wasn't a really big hit for me, but I love the artwork involved in it, and I like to see more of it, and that is Crossroads of Heroes. Now, I don't really know. The art is done by the designer, Pat Piper, so I might argue that he's a better artist than designer, but I like his art a lot. It gives me almost like a Eastern vibe of Tintin style artwork. I guess that's the best way. Like, again, it's cartoony, but it has a serious vibe to it also. And I think we got a couple, here's the different characters that are in the game, and each one of them has a distinct look to it. Each of them has like an evil scumbag look to them, and also a very positive look to them. And just the different pictures that are in the game look really nice. I got any more? Yeah, like here's one of the characters. This is Jung, I think is how you pronounce that. But even just the little artwork for the devices, the background stuff, you can't necessarily see it here, but this background, it has like an art style to it. And it just, I think one of the reasons I like this one so much is that it has this, it stands out in the crowd. And I guess that's what I'm looking for on the games on my list. Some of the games just have really beautiful artwork, right? But they don't necessarily stand out in the crowd, and that's kind of what I'm looking together. So that's my number 1, Crossroad of Heroes. So again, this is a very, very specialized list, right? This is what Tom Vasel looks like for art. Although I'd go to the mat if you want to say any of these look ugly, because I think they look pretty. There are games that there's a lot of great artwork out there now, right? So, but I tried to also pick something where the overall game. There's a couple games where the covers looked amazing. A good one would be Treasure Island, right? Oh, great cover. But the artwork in the game is good, but just not as good as that cover. And so there's things like that. Any love for Starship Samurai? Yeah, Starship Samurai I like the art in that, but it just didn't make my top 10. Grim Forest, also some fantastic artwork in Grim Forest. It was probably a strong 11 or so. Empires of the Void, great artwork. Haven was on my short list. Ryan Lockett's artwork is always really good, and so I would have considered that one here. What other ones? Everdell. You know, I've never ever really got a close look at Everdell, so I know that the components are great. I don't know much about the artwork, which is why Everdell. Would you say you're more drawn to cartoonish artwork? I don't know. I mean, most games have a cartoonish look to them. I'm definitely not attracted to that serious man on the cover art that's in a lot of the Euro-style games. Do you think that rating art is more prone to subjectivity than rating games? 100% yes. Definitely, art is extremely subjective. I mean, we can both love a game, and I might think it looks pretty, you might think it looks not. There are games where I've sat there and gone, who likes this artwork? But obviously, some people really do. Also, I was trying to pick just sheer artwork in here, not necessarily graphic design. A game can have good artwork and bad graphic design, or vice versa. So some games have just amazing graphic design, but here I was talking mostly about just the art for that. Okay, I just learned to not take Tom seriously regarding art from now on. Okay, cool. I never called him. Who cares? Where does Root fit on your list? Root was definitely one I considered. I really like the cartoonish, little, almost, it's like chibi animal style art, I guess. Has a nice, strong red wall feel to it. Did I consider Festo? No, I like Festo, but there's just a few pieces of art in it. I do like the food to it. Let's see here. What else? People like super deformed chibi art. Well, yeah, that chibis are that giant head on a thing. I don't know. I don't think I liked chibis when I first saw them, but I've seen them so much now that I'm just getting used to it. Did I have any in my top 10? I don't think so. No, I didn't. Cryptid's one of the best games I played, but it's ugly. Sure, and the cover for Cryptid is fine, but the artwork inside. Rising Sun has some good artwork in it, but the game is not really about the art. In fact, I don't even think about the art when I'm playing the game. I'm thinking about the components, and the component production of the whole game is very good. But if you said, hey, tell me a good piece of art in Rising Sun, I don't know that many people would know it. Do you think you tend to avoid crossover with other recent lists, or did it work out that way for this list? I try to put a wide variety of games on my list, but I don't care too much about crossover, which you'll notice in a couple lists. But I have my component list here too, and the only one that was a crossover, I guess, was Who Goes There. And I didn't actually even consider any of my component games except for Grim Forest I considered, and I considered Way of the Panda. But even that, there wasn't enough art in Way of the Panda. Between Two Castles was not on my list. Vindication was not on my list. I love the Vindication. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a fantastic game. Just didn't hit my top 10 for art. Did you exclude the new version of Arboretum? You know, I haven't even seen it. I have the new version of Arboretum. It's sitting on my desk right now, and I've seen the cover. I haven't seen the cards. So I'm sure it's fine, although I don't know if I would consider that. It's a reprint, isn't it? So I don't know if I would count that for this list or not. Gugong? No, I mean Gugong looks fine, but when you said that to me, I had to look. The box is right over there. I had to look at it and be like, well, what did the game look like? So if I'm having a hard time, when I was making this list, someone said, hey, did you put Lady and a Tiger? And I was like, of course, because I remembered the artwork that strongly. I guess I consider the minis and games to be artwork as well. Sure, I don't. I look at that as something different. I think that modeling is a big deal. And I think that models are art, okay? But when I'm talking about artwork, I'm talking about the drawn artwork in a game. Do you like Nico's art, Architects and Raiders? Yeah, I think that their artwork is fantastic. It does look samey to some degree, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And when I see their art, I definitely know it's theirs. There's a couple artists I know as soon as I see them. Vincent Dutrait, the Nico. There's a couple artists I'm like, oh yeah, that's their art. But it just didn't make my list, that's all. And maybe it's because a lot of it's samey. I think it's good. What do you think about the artwork for the Big Trouble in Little China board game? I thought the artwork for Big Trouble in Little China was fine. The board looks cool, but the characters and stuff, they didn't look bad. I just thought they looked fine. They looked like drawings of a movie. Villainous has some good Disney art. Villainous was definitely on the short list to make this list. Brass, I still haven't got my copy of Brass yet. So I haven't had a really good chance to take a close look at Brass. From a distance, when I see people in my game group playing Brass, it certainly looks good on the table, but it looks good as a base of the components and stuff. I haven't had a chance to get really into the art or not. So maybe it is fantastic art. I don't know. And that looks like that's it. Okay. So, lots of fantastic games. If you're watching this later on, put in the comments what your favorite art is. There's, again, if I say I like the art of a game and someone's like, that art looks hideous, it's no skin off my nose, right? We could all enjoy different games, and there's fantastic. I think we can all agree sometimes that there are some games that are just ugly. There's a lot of games that are ugly. But we live in an era now where most board games look pretty good. Not just in the art, but the production and the values are just off the charts. It's fantastic, and I'm so pleased. Unfortunately, it means when a game like Carpe Diem comes out with hideous artwork and graphic design, it's really noticeable, which is unfortunate for the people who make those games, I guess. But overall, fantastic. So thanks for joining me live. I'm going to be back at 3 o'clock with Crowd Surfing, talking about the Kickstarter projects and stuff. So I'll see you then. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Top 10 Best Artwork Games. Before I go, I should mention I'll be back tomorrow doing top 10 party games, or innovative games. One of those two. Anyway, see you next time. I'm Tom Vasel.